Ridge spoke about the house on Willow Lane anymore. Not because they had forgotten it, but because remembering brought bad luck. For nearly 40 years, the two-story Victorian sat abandoned at the far edge of town, its windows blackened with grime, its wooden frame warped by time. Children dared each other to touch its gate. Teenagers swore they saw figures in the upstairs windows. And every few years, someone disappeared. Most people blamed wild animals or the surrounding forest, but the older residents knew better. The house was hungry. Ethan Cole never believed in ghost stories. When the letter arrived, stamped by a law firm he didn't recognize, he almost threw it away. Inside was a single sentence that changed everything. You are the sole heir to the property located at 1147 Willow Lane. Ethan frowned. He had no relatives in Blackridge, at least none he remembered. But debt had a way of forcing decisions. Recently laid off and months behind on rent, the thought of owning property, even an old one, felt like a miracle. 2 days later, he packed his car and drove 6 hours into the mist-covered hills. The moment he entered Blackridge, something felt wrong. The streets were too quiet. The people stared too long. And when he mentioned the address at a small diner, the waitress dropped her pen. "You bought that house?" she whispered. "Inherited it." She leaned closer. "Leave before nightfall." He laughed it off. He shouldn't have. The front gate screamed as he pushed it open. Dead leaves crunched under his boots. The house loomed overhead like a sleeping giant. Inside, dust coated everything, but oddly, nothing looked vandalized. No broken windows, no graffiti, just abandonment, as if everyone had left at once. He spent the afternoon opening windows and sweeping a small space in the living room. By nightfall, exhaustion overtook unease. He fell asleep on a mattress he dragged from his car. At exactly 2:13 a.m., he awoke. Someone was whispering. At first, it sounded like wind slipping through cracks, but then he heard it clearly. A voice, low, urgent, right beside his ear. "Don't let her see you." Ethan bolted upright. Silence. His phone read 2:14 a.m. He searched the entire first floor. Nothing. No open doors. No footprints. He told himself it was a dream, yet when he returned to the mattress, the dust beside him held a long, thin impression, as if someone had been lying there, watching him sleep. Morning brought rational thoughts. Old houses made noises, pipes shifted, wood expanded. Still, curiosity gnawed at him. He explored the second floor, finding empty bedrooms and peeling wallpaper. At the end of the hall stood a door unlike the others, thicker, reinforced with iron nails. Locked. Scratches covered the wood, deep ones, as if something inside had tried to claw its way out. He found the key in a kitchen drawer. Why anyone would lock a room from the outside puzzled him. The lock clicked open with surprising ease. The smell hit him first. Rot. Not fresh, ancient. The room was almost bare except for one object, a chair bolted to the floor. Leather restraints hung from its arms, and on the wall, carved repeatedly into the plaster, "She watches, she watches, she watches." Suddenly, footsteps creaked behind him. He spun around. The hallway was empty, but he noticed something impossible. The dust there had been disturbed, as though someone had just walked through it, barefoot. That afternoon, Ethan returned to the diner. The same waitress refused to meet his eyes. Finally, an elderly man in a flannel jacket slid into the booth across from him. "You opened the upstairs room, didn't you?" Ethan froze. "How did you—" "Because everyone does, and most don't stay long after." He introduced himself as Walter Briggs, born and raised in Blackridge. Then he told Ethan the story. In 1958, the house belonged to a woman named Margaret Voss, beautiful, reclusive, obsessive. After her young daughter died from a sudden illness, Margaret changed. Neighbors reported hearing her talk to someone who wasn't there. She claimed her daughter was still alive, watching, waiting. Then people began disappearing. A traveling salesman, a local boy, even Margaret's own sister. When police searched the house, they found nothing except the locked room. Margaret was discovered sitting in that chair, smiling. She said only one thing: she doesn't like when others come into our home. Margaret died in an asylum 3 years later, but the disappearances never fully stopped. Walter leaned forward. "Listen carefully, son. If you hear whispering, leave?" Walter shook his head. "Don't answer." Ethan tried to stay awake that night. By midnight, fatigue dragged him under. At 2:13 a.m., the whisper returned, closer this time, clearer. "Why did you open her room?" His blood turned cold. "I'm dreaming," he muttered. The whisper sharpened. "You shouldn't be here." Slowly he turned toward the doorway. A shape stood there, small, child-sized, too dark to see clearly. Then it moved, not walking, gliding. The temperature dropped so fast his breath fogged. He squeezed his eyes shut. When he opened them, it was gone. But the light in the hallway flickered on by itself, and somewhere upstairs, a chair scraped across the floor. The next morning, Ethan bought security cameras. If something was happening, he wanted proof. That night, he positioned one camera facing the hallway, another aimed at the locked room. At 2:13 a.m., he forced himself to stay awake. The whisper came again, but this time from upstairs. Against all instinct, he checked the camera feed on his phone. The hallway camera showed nothing unusual. Then he switched to the locked room. At first, the image looked empty. Then the chair moved, just an inch, but no one was there. Suddenly, the camera glitched. Static swallowed the screen. Through the distortion, a face appeared inches from the lens, pale, sunken, eyes too wide, and a smile stretched impossibly far. The feed cut to black. Behind him, something exhaled. From that moment, the house felt awake. Doors he closed opened again. Lights pulsed at random hours, and always 2:13 a.m. On the fourth night, he woke unable to move. A pressure settled on his chest. The whisper was now a child's voice. "Stay!" Tears slid down his temples as panic surged. At the foot of the mattress stood the girl, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Hair hung wet around her face. When she stepped forward, her joints bent wrong, like a puppet with tangled strings. She climbed onto the mattress slowly, then leaned down until her face hovered inches from his. Her lips parted, black liquid trickled out. "Now you can't leave." The paralysis broke. Ethan screamed. The girl vanished, but the indentation remained beside him. Desperate, Ethan searched the house's basement. Under layers of dirt, he found a trap door. Inside lay a narrow crawl space, and bones, dozens of them, small ones, large ones, all arranged carefully, like someone had been building a family. As he staggered back, he noticed fresh footprints in the dust, child-sized, leading up the stairs. Ethan packed his car before sunset. He didn't care about selling the place anymore. Some things weren't meant to be owned. As he carried the last box outside, he heard it. Not a whisper, a scream from inside the house. Against all reason, he ran back in. The locked room stood open. The chair was gone. In its place sat a small figure, the girl, except now she wasn't shadow. She was solid, real. Her eyes fixed on him. "You woke her," she said softly. "Who?" The girl pointed behind him. Slowly, Ethan turned. Margaret Voss stood in the doorway. Her jaw hung too wide. Her eyes were hollow pits, skin stretched tight over bone. "You tried to take her away," Margaret rasped. The girl smiled. "She gets lonely." The door slammed shut, locks twisted on their own, windows sealed. Ethan lunged for the knob. It wouldn't budge. When he turned back, they were closer. Margaret's voice dropped into a whisper that seemed to crawl inside his skull. "Stay with us." The lights died. Darkness swallowed everything. He felt tiny hands grip his wrist, then more, pulling, dragging him toward the chair. His last scream never left the house.